Bang, bang. Here we go. The video of the week, stack of the week, top 3 stacks. Last week, the number 1 stack for us was the Chiefs. And did they pay off? Boy, oh boy, did they. Mahomes, I said, was a money. Tyreek Hill, 60 points. Did fabulous. So our single entry GPPs just smashed. If you want access, you go to dfsdads.com/join. Check us out. Use code RC. And if you don't want to, at least like and subscribe to all of our socials, the DFS Dads on Facebook and Twitter. We give out free captains and cash cores and a lot of other good stuff. So be sure to follow us there. Now, let's get to it. The number 1 stack of the week, in my opinion, my humble opinion, is the Minnesota Vikings. Their over-under is 52 points. They are playing the 1 win. They are 1-10, Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, Dalvin Cook last week was pretty tough on us, pretty tough on our cash core. But Kirk Cousins, Price. Are you on board with the stack with Kirk Cousins?
Yes.
All right.
I do like Kirk Cousins.
He's 6,400.
That's super expensive for Kirk Cousins.
Super expensive. Is this going to turn into a very chalky stack? Even a 6,400 Kirk Cousins?
No, I don't think it'll be chalky because people will see that and freak out. Well, they'll think they're going to smash the Jaguars and not use the quarterback and receivers.
Yeah, so a couple of things that you want to look at typically when you want to stack, you want a game total over 50, which this has, and then you want the spread to be less than 5. It's what I look for. This spread is 10.5, 10.5, 9.5, depends on where you're looking at. So the spread's not there, but Minnesota, I don't think they can pull away from anybody. Jacksonville has started showing a little bit of life on the offensive side of the ball the last few weeks, and I'm going to stack Kirk Cousins, fading Dalvin Cook for GPPs, and I'm going to stack both receivers. Jefferson and Thielen have been money. If you want, you can do a little. You can run it back with James Robinson. Eiferd's in there as well, someone cheap you can run it back with. But that's where I like. Jefferson has been the steal of the draft for the receivers this year. He's been money. We were just making fun of the Raiders for picking Henry Ruggs over Jefferson. Henry Ruggs still might be great, but I like the stack. It gives you a lot of leeway. It doesn't give you a ton of leeway because both Thielen and Jefferson are getting pretty pricey, and Cousins at 6,400. But I do think that the spread of 10.5 is going to keep ownership down, and Cousins being up at 6,400. If he was like 58, 5,900, I think it would be a lot more chalky. So that's the stack of the week. What do you think? What do you think about running back with like a cheap tight end, or do you think you could do both the tight end and Robinson?
Yeah, you could. I mean, that was Justin's little gem last week who gets 5 targets a game. He got a couple of red zone targets, caught a touchdown, dropped another touchdown. I mean, he was pretty solid. Robinson has been a monster, man. He gets all the volume, which is what you want in a fantasy player. The other thing to keep an eye on is if DJ Chark is healthy and gets to play, he's only 5,400. And so that'd be a good little piece of throw in there too. And if Chark and Conley both miss, I think Colin Johnson's a nice little run back option too, because he's basically been priced at 3,300. And literally, I was talking about it with Dustin before the game last week, and I was like, I mean, at some point, Colin Johnson's going to do something. Like they draft him, they like him. He's a big, talented receiver, and then he popped off for 90 yards and a touchdown last week.
Yep.
Now we'll go to Dustin's game next.
I'm taking your Houston Texans Will Fuller list. Makes it a little more interesting as far as the stack, because a lot of times in the past it's been Watson Fuller. We had it on the short week, obviously before Fuller got hit with the performance enhancing drugs. But so you got the Texans playing the Colts. My stack is on the Deshaun side. He's a little more pricey, so I think he'll be a little less owned, especially people that are scared that Fuller's not there. But I'm liking the main stack, obviously, with Cooks, who's had a great year ever since they got rid of O'Brien. He's been very solid. He should see a uptick in volume now. He's been getting, 5 to 8 targets a game, it seems, the past 4 games. So I expect it more in the 10-plus range. His yardage has been great, 85 the past 2 games. So he should get to that and hit the 100 mark, I would think, against Indianapolis. So the other target there, you can go 2 ways. And I haven't really figured out if I'm going to go, Akins at tight end, because they have to be more involved. You have, Cobb out, obviously Fuller. And they cut what's his face,
Kenny Stills.
And so Deshaun has to throw it to somebody. So it's either Duke Johnson as an ancillary piece to Cooks, or the tight end. And then you also have Kiki over there in the slot. So one of those 3, possibly 2 of them, depending on how crazy you want to get, this being a slate that's not super high scoring games. So you could always, do the Watson, Duke with Cooks, and then, another piece to that. So then running it back is going to be the tricky part, because you have the Colts and they throw it to everybody, it seems like. And so you have Hines, who is an intriguing option coming out of the backfield. But you also have Taylor that's back that, might get a lot of carries on the Texans, who, have a porous rush D. But Roby's also out for the Texans secondary, so I can see him getting beat. So that leads me to more of a Pittman/Hilton. Hilton kind of came alive last week. Led the team in receiving, caught a touchdown, but Pittman had 9 targets. So I would look at one of those guys off the bat and kind of run it back with them. And, the Texans defense is bad. So I think Indianapolis scores at least fairly easily, especially with the Roby, the corner, being out. And so, and the Texans, I think, are going to score. We saw Henry absolutely steamroll them last week. So they shouldn't be feeling good about themselves. So that's a stack I like. Deshaun's a little pricey, so I think, like I said, he'll be a little less owned. What about your stack price? Any feedback on that before we get back?
So I agree with you. Deshaun's going to be low owned. I think Cooks is going to be fairly high owned, just because he's 5,600, and without Will Fuller, automatically you're going to assume he gets all the targets. I'm a firm believer in Akins being the most athletic tight end on their roster, and he should get more run. Kiki, he sucks. He's a small slot receiver who always gets hurt. It is what it is.
Last year.
But I was looking through, they have 3 healthy receivers. It's Cooks, Kute, and then Isaiah Coulter. So you have to think it's going to be Duke Johnson getting targets out of the backfield, Akins and Fells with Cooks, because they don't. Maybe CJ Precise, I guess, since he was I believe he's a pass down or the pass catching back in Seattle before he came over. But that's
just thin.
It's thin, man. It's thin. So you got to think. The problem with Cooks is he's so little. Like I'm a firm believer in someone that size can't be a legit number 1 wide receiver. I guess Tyreek Hill is the exception to the rule, but I think you're right on like a nice stack. I think would be Deshaun, Cooks, Akins, and Pittman. I think that'd be a very good stack. And if you want to get weird on it, go the flip side and do Rivers, Hilton, Burton, and then run with Cooks. I think that'd be a nice little intriguing reverse side.
Yeah, and on the Colts side, they also got a little bump with Ryan Kelly's coming back. I know you might not think it's a big deal. You might not know who Ryan Kelly is. He's the center. He's a stud center, and it looks like he practiced on Wednesday, so he should be back in the lineup, and that can make a big difference.
Where did he go to school?
I don't have to tell you. You can tell the listeners.
It's weird.
University of Alabama.
He knows these Alabama guys.
Yeah, I'm about to say the only reason he knows that is because of where he went to school.
Rarely does an Alabama, not Alabama. They always get drafted in the first round, but a center get drafted as early as that.
Super athletic. Their offensive line is fantastic when it's healthy. Quentin Nelson is a freaking monster, and Ryan Kelly's elite.
Talking about elite, let's go to the third stack that we like.
I'm interested.
So there was a little debate on this one. There's 3 games I was looking at. The highest over-under is the Browns and Titans, which there's no good stack in this game that makes sense because it's all like random people pop off for these teams. So there's no point in actually attacking that. The Saints-Falcons. So it came down to Saints-Falcons and Lions-Bears. The Saints-Falcons, you're like, oh my gosh, high-powered offenses. And then you look at what they've been doing lately. And so I'm going to skip that game and go to the Lions and Bears. Which,
oh, my.
Oh, we're missing some Tigers, right?
Oh, God. Dad jokes. It is
Yeah.
DFS dads. So there you go.
All right. I love Trubisky this week. I think he's going to win me the $1 million Chris talked about for the last 13 weeks. It's time. Pay me my money, Mitch. But I love him. I think everyone's going to go to Montgomery because he popped off last week for the first time in like forever. And I'm going to be the opposite and go to Allen Robinson instead. I think a great little stack is Mitch, Robinson with Mooney, and run it back with either Hawkinson or Swift. I really would love it if Galladay was cleared to play. I know he's out with his hip injury. But if you get him back and Swift back, I feel like the total is going to jump on this game. And that makes Stafford live too. Because if you get a fully healthy Lions offense, Stafford's super underrated. Like he gets kind of shit on a lot by the media and doesn't get any like love. I believe it was actually this week. Someone told Rodgers that Nick Foles was the second best quarterback in his division. And he's like, no. Do you not know who Matt Stafford is? But obviously Swift needs to be cleared from concussion protocol. But Hawkinson, Chris's boy, has just been super consistent. I mean, he's had one bad game all year. Other than that, he's been very solid. And I mean, I really expect Mitchell Trubisky and Robinson to pay off this week. I just need the Lions to score to keep the game going. And I think they will because the Bears defense, especially if Hicks is out, they're going to be run on. And if Swift is back and he's out, Swift could have a monster game and people won't use him because you'll look and be like, oh, the Bears are 7th against the run. We're not going to do that when they're really not because they're missing their best defensive lineman. What about you guys on that game?
Well, it's just weird to hear you. Somebody needs to keep up with the Bears offense. But no, I think
bang.
I think it'll be definitely underrated. And it's 2 teams, that, I mean, they've been meddling. Obviously, Detroit lost their coach and GM, so you never know what kind of game plan they're going to come out with. And the Bears are, I think under 500 or right at 500. So, they're still scrapping away. So I think it'll be entertaining. I think it'll be a little higher scoring than what is anticipated. Stafford has played well of late, like you said, and especially if you can get like Galladay and Swift back, I think that'll open a lot of things. I don't know why teams it's like Gore, and Peterson. Like I love Peterson. I grew up watching him run over my Longhorns, and there just comes a point where like he's so one-dimensional. Like, you have these other young guys that you drafted. So get them out there, let them play. Swift, obviously, given the opportunity, has been really good. So I just think they'll open it up a little bit more, the Lions, and so I see some fireworks a little
I
bit.
will say if Julio is healthy and playing, that really might make me move a lot of my shares down to the Saints-Falcons game. The Falcons offense is trash without Julio Jones. But if you have that with the Saints, with Chris's man crush Taysom at quarterback, I think that could be a sneaky little shootout.
Yeah, the Saints secondary hasn't been great by any means, but damn, they sacked Ryan 8 times. I mean, it doesn't matter how good you are back there. If you get sacked 8 times, you're not going to get anything going.
They would not sack Taysom Hill 8 times if it was reversed. He's too good of an athlete.
Don't talk about Matty Ice like that.
Chris, any thoughts on Lions and Bears before we go?
I'm just proud that we've listed we listed two linemen on our stacks. Ryan Kelly and Hicks. I think that's pretty impressive. The Swift thing, I think Swift is going to play. So I love going to Swift. I saw a report today that it looks like they're optimistic he's playing. If he's a go, which he is, I love TJ Hawk. I mean, maybe you could go Swift and Hawk to run it back. And
yeah, if Galladay's out, I don't see why you couldn't, because Swift's been great at catching passes. I mean, that's one of the bigger upsides for him.
And tight ends suck. So Hawk literally gives you 10 points a game. And that's saying something. So yeah, I think that's it. I think that's our stacks. 1, 2, 3. Not really in a particular order. I think we all like all 3 of those, but definitely go to dfsdads.com. Check us out on Twitter. We'll be putting out some other tweets throughout the week. Be excited for our deep dive, and then on our quick access page. If you don't know, if you're not a member yet, we do our cash core. We give out a good chunk of the lineup on both the cash and then single entry GPPs. And then we have an MME section where we give you what our exposures are going to be, our player pool. If you want to take a deeper dive in our stats, that's where the deep dive comes in, and our positional breakdowns. So hope you guys enjoyed this. Leave a comment in the comment section below. Do us a favor and smash that like button, and let's go make some money.